Hello! As you may know from the title of this video, this is a tag called Decks for Decades, and it was made by Jessica Starr, the Story Witch. I adore her. And basically it's you choose a tarot deck for each decade of your life. Some people who have a smaller collection may just choose like a tarot card for every decade of their life or something like that. It was a little difficult. It was a little difficult because I have 4, 5. I have 6 tarot decks and 3 oracle decks, so I don't have like a ton to choose from. What are you doing, Lestat? Yeah, you can't. Whatever. But I think I selected these, and they're all for different reasons too. So, and I went ahead and did 4 because I will be 37 in less than 2 weeks, and my 30s have been a very eventful decade, even though it's not over. So, all right, let's start 0 to 10. So for 0 to 10, I chose Ashy. What are you doing? I chose my Mystic Dreamer Tarot, and the reason I chose this one is because it was my first tarot deck. So it kind of made sense to put it with my first decade, 0 to 10. It has very friendly images for the most part. It's not a dark deck or anything like that. It's a very fantasy-esque deck, but it was my first deck. Based on Rider-Waite-Smith, so most of the... I'm sorry, I have a cat hair. Like, I was petting Ashy, and I'm pretty certain the cat hair is like just chilling right by my nose there. Anyway, for the most part, it follows Rider-Waite symbolism. Some of the cards are a little different from traditional, like the sun here. There's sunflowers and there's a sun, but there's no naked baby on a horse, which makes me happy. But I have walkthrough videos on all of these decks, so if you want to see more of the deck, just go to my playlists, and there is a playlist for deck walkthroughs. You'll find all of them there. So 0 to 10, I chose this one just because it was my first deck. So, oh my god, Ashy, quit getting your hair all over my face. Alright, 10 to 20 was hard, because 10 to 20 is such a huge change. I mean, from age 10 to age 20 is huge. That's probably one of the, like, biggest decades of growth. I mean, 0 to 10's a lot too, but in a lot of it you were a baby, so. But yeah, I feel 10 to 20 is like a really big decade of growth, and there were some good stuff, but there was a lot of bad stuff. Like, a lot of bad stuff. I actually got married when I was 18 and got divorced when I was 19, so that's a fun one. What I chose for this is my Epic Tarot. And the reason I chose it is because this deck in front of my face, it's so, it's different. It's different than the traditional Rider-Waite in a lot of cases. Like, this is the Magician. So it's very different, you know, the pages are unicorns. But it's also just very, what's the word? It's fantasy, but in a different way than the Mystic Dreamers. It kind of has, manga-esque artwork. Like, here's the 6 of Swords. Just throwing a sword. In this deck, wands are books, so this is the 10 of books, which would be the 10 of wands. The meaning is totally different. It has nothing to do with like being overburdened or anything like that. This is actually about writing your story and about the fact that your story isn't over. there's more to go. Keep writing. Kings or dragons. I find this deck very, like there's a lot of variety in it. There's a lot of interesting, like this is the moon card. It involves a mirror. So I just find it very interesting, and very, it's just so different. There's even some cards that have like mechanical beasts and creatures on them. Hang on. Let me find one real quick, like, here. Like there's like a mechanical creature on here. That was the 7 of books or 7 of wands. This is the 9 of books or 9 of wands. Another mechanical type thing there. So it's just a very interesting deck and very different. And I think that I felt that that represented 10 to 20 just because there's so many changes. It's so different just from year to year. It was a rough decade. It was a rough decade. Yeah. My 20s. My 20s saw a lot of dark. And so I chose my Gothic tarot. I edged it in black too. See? The stark white edges were such a like, it was almost a distraction because this is so dark and this is so dark and the edges were just bright white. So I edged it in black with a Sharpie. Anyway, it's a very dark deck. It's Gothic. And it was just a very rough decade. So much happened. I went to a psychologist. I went to 2 different psychologists during that decade. I was diagnosed with PTSD during that decade. Depression and anxiety I was diagnosed with either in late teens or very early 20s. Maybe like right around age 20. So I dealt with that. I got married in 2004 when I was 23. 23? Yeah. I got married then and we lasted for quite a while, but 2008 we split up, 2009 we divorced, and I had to file bankruptcy. That was fun. I went through such a depression after that time that I actually couldn't even hold a job. Like, my PTSD was worse. That was towards the end of this decade. Like 2009 is when we split up, or when we divorced. I was 28 then, so like 28, 29 were rough years. Getting out of bed was a chore, and it was really hard to hold a job. And this went a little bit into my early 30s as well. So it was a rough time. I grew a lot in terms of learning stuff about myself, but I didn't heal much during that decade. I just learned things. So anyway, that's why I chose a dark deck. Now, my 30s, which like I said, I'll be 37 in a couple of weeks. I know my 30s aren't over. Deal with it, because I know exactly what deck. And that is my brand new Neon Moon Tarot. I think I'm going to edge this one in black too. It's not quite as stark white, and I think it's because this cardstock on the Gothic Tarot is so much thicker. Like, this is thick cardstock. Like, it's hard to, if you like to riffle shuffle, you pretty much can't riffle shuffle this. Like, you have to overhand shuffle or something. They're too stiff. It seems bendy when you have like one in your hand, but you put a few in your hand and you're like, it's barely bending. You can tell how thick it is because both of these decks are 78 cards, and this one is thicker by a pretty good amount. So anyway, I think I'm going to edge this one in black. The edges are not quite so bright white because it is thinner cardstock, but I still think I'm going to do it. Anyway, so if you saw my deck review on this, this is in a cyberpunk setting. It's in sort of an apocalyptic setting. I read a little bit from the book in that video so you could see. Basically, there's a plate that divides upper and lower, both in metaphorically speaking as well as physically speaking. So the higher up are like the rich people, the people who have you know, got their wealth together and they're running things. Corruption, of course. Below the plate is where all the rest of the people live, and these are the people that struggle on a day-to-day life. And so the minor arcana are the ones that depict their struggles. I think the major pretty much depicts it all, but like the court cards are like the people above the plate. So like, here's the supervisor of arms, which would be like the Queen of Swords. And it's sort of a dystopia. You can tell in the background images, like the backgrounds behind the people. You know, you can see what it looks like. There's like wires hanging everywhere, and like it's not the best. It's not the best place to live, and so people are struggling. They're struggling not just to survive, but to just live. I mean, to survive, they are struggling to survive. I didn't word that right. They're struggling not just to like make it, but to just live in general. Here's the Three of Zent, which would be the Three of Pentacles. Let's see. Anyway, it's a deck about struggle, you know. This is the Six of Zent, which would be the Six of Pentacles. So traditionally this is about charity. Well, in this one, basically they stole some supplies from that were headed to like the richer people, and they stole them to hand them out to the poorer areas, which was like a Robin Hood thing. But yeah, so that's what they're doing. They're getting the supplies off the truck in this scene. Anyway, this deck shows struggle. It shows just humans struggling. And in the court cards, some of them don't care. They're living their own lives. But some of them are rather compassionate and want to do something to help. I think the cups are really the ones that are the vials in this deck. But I think those are the ones, if I remember right, that are really like wanting to help. And you know, because the author and artist of this deck gave like keywords. Anyway, I still feel like my lipstick's doing something weird over here. So yeah, this deck is about struggle, but also a little bit about evolution, like evolving yourself, both physically and emotionally, because in this world, gene therapy is a thing, and yeah, conflict. There's robots and AIs. Anyway, struggle. Struggle and personal evolution is what I see as the biggest themes overall in this deck. And that has been what my 30s have been. It's been a lot of struggle, but it's also been so much personal evolution and so much learning and so much healing from my past and other things. So overall, it's been a good decade. I would like to stop struggling though. That'd be great. But, you know, I got about 3 more years left in this decade. We'll see what those 3 years bring. And I'm actually, you know, kind of looking forward to my 40s and see what they bring, because so much healing and evolution happened in my 30s. So, my current husband, yeah, I've been married 3 times. My husband and I got married the year I turned 30. So that's been a plus. Alright, this was Dex for Decades. I will put a link below to Jessica's video since she's the one that started it, and thank you for joining me. I will see you in my next video.